from Lord Stern at just after 7:30 as well. Justin, thank you.
18 minutes past 6 now. There is another big change coming tomorrow, the 1st of January, on goods moving between Great Britain and the EU. Rob Young has more in the business news. Morning, Rob.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, as of tomorrow, a post-Brexit grace period comes to an end and new customs procedures kick in. So goods must be presented to officials and export declarations made. We will look at the changes in a moment. We'll also discuss new regulations to protect home and motor insurance customers from so-called loyalty penalties. A recent survey from the Institute of Directors found that nearly a third of British companies that import goods from the EU are not at all prepared for the new full customs checks that start tomorrow. We can speak to Shane Brennan, Chief Executive of the Cold Chain Federation, which represents businesses that store and move frozen and chilled food to, from and within the UK. Morning, Shane.
Good morning.
What proportion of your industry do you think is prepared?
So UK-based businesses are pretty prepared. You know, we've been doing this going the other way for a long time, and we have been working for the last 12 months knowing this is coming. What we're really worried about is the businesses across the European Union, because they're the ones that have to make a change now. They haven't had to since Brexit, but as of 1st of January, they have to make declarations, they have to do paperwork, they have to gather information in order to trade with the UK, and that is a big change, and we're worried about how prepared they are.
Right, so the changes then you think are perhaps bigger for importers than for exporters?
Absolutely, that's exactly the change that's happening this time.
So just talk us through briefly, what are the extra processes and checks that will take place from tomorrow?
So if you're bringing food into the UK, you have to make a declaration around food safety, which is a new process. You have to make a customs declaration, and you also have to make a declaration about the goods that are moving through the port. So there are 3 different processes you have to complete, all of which have to happen in synchronisation, and that is a big barrier or a big potential thing to go wrong in moving goods through the border. So we're worried about delays, and we're worried about goods not being able to get across the border.
Right, so you think there could be delays then. Do you expect any flexibility from the authorities if, for example, paperwork, or like we say paperwork, it is electronic, if there is a mistake or it's been submitted incorrectly?
So UK government have worked very hard to be ready, and they are assertively confident that they have the contingencies on contingencies to deal with this, and they are more in control of what comes into the country than what goes out. But it's really about what happens up the chain. What happens at the depots when my members with their lorries turn up at a business in Italy, for example. Is that customer ready to dispatch those goods? And it could be there that we see the real problems. And that's what worries us, is that preparedness from the EU side.
OK, when it comes to the new processes, what does it mean in terms of extra time, extra staff or work hours, extra cost?
Significant extra cost. You know, we're talking about £300, £400 additional per lorry, or goods sent on a lorry across the border. We're talking about a whole wave of new people required to do the data entry. This is a much more inflexible, much more costly process, and this is the sort of long-term future and change that we're seeing in our food supply chain.
If companies aren't prepared for this, these checks have been flagged in plenty times, so they've got no excuse really, have they?
No, there's been a lot of work to try and make them aware, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of businesses across the European Union, and some of these businesses, they don't sell a lot of goods to the UK, so the chances are that they aren't ready yet, and they're going to have to work very hard and play catch-up in the next few days and weeks. And some businesses will see that and they'll make those changes, and those changes will be made very quickly. Others will look at it and go, actually, this is probably not the right thing for us, and they won't stop sending goods to the UK.
There are further changes to come for the food sector, aren't there? Because some checks on an awful lot of food have been delayed by at least another 6 months. So the industry has got a bit longer to prepare for that. Why is a delay needed on those?
So this is specifically related to veterinary checks, and this is really the most nightmarish part of food goods. And we're looking at the amount of vets that are required across the European Union to do the checks that are required, and also the costs and delays that are involved in that. So we do need that additional 6 months, and we're very grateful for that additional time.
Okay, you mentioned before that there might be some disruption, there might be some delay for goods. What do you think the government, the authorities can do to help try to minimise any disruption?
It's really about the businesses that have to do that work. So we're going to have to, they have to bear with us to make sure the businesses are working together to make that goods work. But the government are assertively confident that they are telling us they'll be pragmatic about what happens at the border in the first few days and weeks. So we would expect UK government to work with traders to ensure that they can get goods in as much as they possibly can within the rules that are now in place.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Shane Brennan there, Chief Executive of the Cold Chain Federation.